Alright, so welcome back. So I'm going to start with the chameleons, the veiled chameleons, and explain how all of the cards in the veiled chameleons work. Now, technically, there's only 5 different cards here to explain in each deck. So it won't take too long to go over a bunch of different cards in each of the different animals that there are. But this will probably take the longest because they are definitely a little bit more harder to understand. So these are passive ability cards here, this one especially. So this is something you will have to make sure to remember before you use it for anything, because it is a chameleon, right? What are chameleons most famous for? They are most famous for changing their color. And so what is often going to happen with these cards is the numbers will change, probably, and the color will change, meaning they will change to the other animal. So blue, for instance, maybe red, purple, black, light blue, for instance. It could happen. It's possible. And so this is always something to remember, to note. Okay, so this card is a copy of any card in the rightmost stack in your stall. So if you have no stall, right now I don't have a stall because the game has not even really begun, right? I don't have a stall. Nobody starts with a stall. So therefore, this passive ability is not going to be active because there is no stall. And so it's really easy to put this one out right away to build your first stall because it isn't used for anything else except if there's actually a stall. Now, if the stall is there, then yes, this will become a copy of that card, whatever it may be. Now, one thing, in fact, I'm going to look at the rule book just so I can say it word for word. So a passive chameleon card you use is an identical copy of one valid card for all purposes of play. If there is a valid card, you must copy it. See, it says you must copy it before using the chameleon card. If there are no valid cards or the copying effect loops back to the original card, the chameleon card is considered to have its own set icon and value. The copying effect lasts the current turn or as long as the copied card's effects last, whichever is longer. And so, since there is no stall, the icon and the set value remain the same. So that's only if that's the case would it change for this particular card here. And so it does say you must do that if it is available. So that is something to note. So they're definitely harder to put into your stalls. Their stuff is definitely harder because things can change. It really makes you think before, obviously, building a stall with them or just even simply using them to buy a card. And because they copy any card, they also copy the technique cards. So if they end up somehow copying a technique card, you can use them to obviously as if they were that technique, and they gain the ability of that technique for that turn as well. Because it does say they copy everything for all purposes of play. All purposes. So a technique is a purpose. So that includes that as well. All purposes of play. Okay, so that's the veiled chameleon, the first one anyway. We won't do these necessarily in order, but here we have good old times. The hourglass looking thing, right? So you may throw away one card from the market deck once in your turn. So let's say this is the market deck over here. This is the market deck. Let's say that's what it is. Well, you can throw away one card from the market deck once in your turn. When you throw away a card from the market deck, it's going to basically be the market's discard pile. Now, this card here, the Loyal Partner, wouldn't be in the market deck. There are never any 1 cards in the market deck. But it could be something like this, for instance. And then this will copy that card. And so it can be the passive ability of this card. It can be the set number, it can be the set icon, whatever the case. It's going to end up as one of those three things, whatever you decide to do for your action that turn. Because this is a passive ability, so this is going into effect before your first action. So what are you going to do? Are you going to use the passive ability to buy a card? Well, that might change the number. It wouldn't change it right now because this is a 3. Are you going to use it to build a stall with a certain color? It might make things difficult if you were going for green and this isn't green, right? And who knows what you'll do. But that is something to note, and you'll have to definitely think twice about doing anything with these cards, with this particular animal and their stuff. So that's basically how that one works. Then we have gift voucher. This one is pretty easy. You just swap this card with any card in the market, and you place the new card into your hand. Simple. You have a market here. You take one of the cards in the market, and it just gets swapped out. Pretty easy to understand that one. Alright. Well, we still have a couple more here. Actually, there's 6. I think there's about 6 altogether different cards in each deck, I think. I know some of them definitely have 6. So here we have Reflection, meaning that there's 2 different 5s. Here we have Reflection. This card is a copy of the top card of another player's discard pile. So if your opponent does not currently have a discard pile, then this passive ability isn't in effect because that opponent does not have a discard pile. But let's say the opponent does have a discard pile and it's a junk card. Well, it's no longer considered an animal of any color and it becomes a 1, which is not that great, obviously. Unless that's what you were going for. Who knows? But that is something to note. Let's say it's another animal. Let's say it's, let's say it is this. Well, the special offer here, meaning this reflection, it reflects this, and so now this is a 5, and it's this icon instead of this icon. And it's this technique as well. So if you want to use it as a technique, go for it. Because after all avenues, all purposes of play does these cards work with, these chameleon cards. So that's how that works. Alright, let's move on. Okay, here we have Seeing Doubles. This card is a copy. This card is a copy of another card in your hand. Show the copied card whenever you show this card. Okay, so another card in your hand. That could be a bunch of different cards. So you can choose a card in your hand, and this will copy that card. It could be very handy in building a stall, because it becomes basically the exact copy. Let's say you have 7 stalls, okay? Let's say you have 7 stalls, right? Well, you need the 8th stall in order to win the game, correct? So let's say the card you decide to copy is this one here. Well, this one is a 4, right? So this one, Seeing Doubles, basically becomes this. And so now you have 2 of these technically, because this icon is this icon, and this number is a 4. And so now you can actually create the last stall with these 2 cards, because right now the chameleon is this card anyways. Awesome, right? That is a cool ability. And so if you plan ahead like that, it can come in handy for sure. So that's how that card works. Seeing Doubles. Now, I think there's one more, at least. Yes. Yeah, looks like this is the last one. Okay, so this is the last card for the chameleons to go over. Okay? Trend Setting. This card is a copy of any card in the market. So with this one, you can choose from any card that is in the market, and it becomes that card. But remember, these are passive abilities, so if it's in your hand and you're going to use this card for something to buy, to obviously use a technique, well, mostly to buy or to build a stall. If you're going to do that, then this passive ability will always go into effect, just like all the other passive abilities we've gone over thus far. They will always be in effect before you do those two separate actions, which whichever one you decide to go with, of course. But that's how it works. That's how the chameleons work. So thank you guys for watching the video on the adapting veiled chameleons. Maybe this is your favorite deck. Who knows? I'll see you guys in the next video.